What is up again, everybody? You know what time it is? You know what time it is? Oh, it's Ranger time. It's Ranger time. Okay, so check this out. I gotta tell you a story. About a week ago, I got an email from the Legend Story Studio guys. I won't mention any names so that, you know, people don't heckle them or whatever. And the email went something like this. It said, "Hey, DM Armada, we watched one of your videos, and it was that one that you made where you talked about the Ranger card, and you talked about how wrong you were because you picked Assassin. Man, you suck." No, they didn't actually say that part. But anyway, they said, "Hey, we saw those custom Hunter cards, and we were kind of surprised because, you know what? You're actually not too far off on one of them." And I said, "Wait a minute, slow down, what?" And so they said, okay, so we're gonna give you something a little bit different when it comes to spoiler season stuff. Okay, instead of one card, we're actually gonna give you two, and we have a challenge for you. We want you to take the abilities on both of these cards, one of them very important to this class you're about to find out. Take the abilities and see if you can come up with the hero, this girl, the hero's ability, and how it might work with the cards that we gave you. And so I said, "You got it. Challenge accepted." Cracked my knuckles, thought about it for a week, procrastinated on making this video until the night before, and here we are. So let's take a look at the card that they were referring to, the one that we actually got pretty close on. Okay, so if you haven't seen that video, or if you watched it when it originally came out, like back in January or whenever, I made this card. Okay, this card is called Ayala Lonely Huntress, a hunter hero that I gave 5 intellect, and then I gave 40 health, and an ability that says action, pay 1, place a card in your arsenal, go again. Okay, so I will say this, I did not, I don't know actually, but I'm fairly certain I did not get the hero correct. Okay, Ayala Lonely Huntress, I just made that up. It's a cool name, I like it. But the ability is not the hero ability. What it is though is very similar, strikingly similar to the weapons ability. And this is the weapon, this is the spoiler card that we're gonna talk about first. This is Death Dealer, a ranger weapon, bow, two-handed. It says once per turn action, pay 1. If you have no cards in your arsenal, you may put an arrow card from your hand face up into your arsenal. And if you do, you get to draw a card and go again. Okay, so are you seeing this? Are you seeing how close we got? Did we predict the future? Okay, do I have like a plant in Legend Story Studios all the way in New Zealand, like telling me what's coming? No, I don't, but that would be cool. Now, look how close that is. That's so crazy. So I obviously went the simplistic route. I kind of just went very simple, like, here's a way you could expand the design space. You could use the arsenal and think of it very thematically, like perhaps your arsenal is loading the bow with an arrow and firing an attack out. You can think of that as an arrow. I even went so far as to create Aero Cards, and then I cut those because I was like, that's just crazy. It'd be like a new card type. What I was not thinking is like, oh, you just make it a subtype of like an attack action. Well, I should have just committed to that. But look how cool this is, okay? And think about the abilities that you could do with this. Like, you're loading something into your arsenal and you're firing it, you're drawing a card so it replaces itself, so you're not really losing resources in the same way that you might in other classes. So all you gotta do is pay 1 resource to use this effect if you didn't have one in Arsenal already. It's super cool. And what this also shows us here is that there are things called Aero Cards, okay? And what do you think an Aero Card actually would be? Well, you don't have to think about it for very long because I have one for us to take a look at. But before I do, I want you to stop for a moment and think about, what do you think an Aero Card would be stat-wise? Do you think it would cost a lot or a little bit? Do you think it would deal a lot of damage or a little bit? And think about it in the frame of reference of the Death Dealer here. You're only paying 1 to place this face up so your opponent knows it's coming. And then, use the effect, obviously, if you wanted to, as your action, because this is giving you a go again. So, you have your ideas. You kind of got your predictions. Let's see if your predictions are correct. Here is Searing Shot. Searing Shot is a 0-cost ranger action arrow attack. It defends for 3. It deals 4 damage, so it doesn't cost anything. It doesn't deal a ton of damage, and this is the red. So if we can assume that the damage scales, This is a common as well. We can assume that the blue is only dealing 2 and the yellow is only dealing 3, okay? But the red here dealing 4 is actually pretty good, because if we look at the parenthetical text first, it says arrows can only be played from arsenal and only if you control a bow. So that's very important. You're only going to be able to play these when you place it down in your arsenal. And then the next ability is kind of interesting too. If Searing Shot hits a hero, they lose 1 health. Okay, so obviously this is not a super duper powerful, like game breaking, like mythic level ability, but what this is intriguing, okay, because obviously on base level, if you play this from your arsenal and it's threatening to deal 4, your opponent kind of knows it's coming, but they do have to get rid of a card from their hand if they want to defend it at all. And they would have to like get rid of a card and use an equipment to prevent all damage. Otherwise, they're going to take 1 extra damage, or in this case, they're going to lose 1 health when this connects. So it does cause them to make some uncomfortable decisions, though 1 health in constructed is not the worst thing. But what this does make me think is that, okay, so if this is a standard sort of baseline, almost like a blank text card, if this is a baseline for what arrows could be, low cost or no cost, lowish damage, but possibly your goal is to use this multiple times or fire arrows multiple times a turn. If we're assuming that that's the case, then how can we design a hero's ability to sort of take advantage of that, of firing more than 1 arrow a turn? And here's what I came up with. This may not be close. It may not be powerful enough based on the power level of some of the other cards we've seen in this set, but this is kind of where my head is at right now. So this is Nerissa Deadly Marksman. I just made the name up, so just go with it. The name's probably not even close, right? I just picked a name. The first thing that popped in my head. Ranger hero, 4 intellect, 40 health. Man, I would love if this intellect were upped. That'd be sweet. Okay. Now it says this: once per turn action, pay 1. The next attack action card you play this turn gains go again. And so here's my thinking, right? Let's pretend we're somewhere in the middle of the game. At the end of your turn, you're allowed to arsenal a card. So you arsenal an arrow into your arsenal. It goes face up, and you end your turn. Draw up to 4 in this case with this hero. At the start of your turn, you use this ability to give the arrow that you're about to play in arsenal there the go again keyword. You play that one for 0, let's say it's Searing Shot. You play it for 0 and you gain the action point back. So you have 1 action point still. So then you use the Death Dealer, that weapon that we talked about. I'll show it on screen again. You use the effect on Death Dealer to pay 1 and then to put another arrow from your hand into the arsenal and gain go again, and then you pay probably next to nothing to use that effect to play that down after you've already used the Nerissa effect to reload, as it were, right? So at that point you've used 2 arrows, and let's assume that if this ability is close, you don't have another way of giving it go again. So you fired 2 arrows in a turn, and then you reload, setting up to do it all again next turn. See, I could see that being a legitimate idea, like for a play style for this hero. I could see that being fairly consistent in damage dealing. Now, it really does depend on what the arrows are going to look like and how much damage they're going to deal or how many problems they're going to create for the opponent. Because if they're really just like simplistic damage deal, life loss, that sort of stuff, then it's probably not going to be too much to handle. But if they have some interesting abilities, then firing multiple arrows a turn becomes really, really intriguing, especially if they can do things like pin your opponent's hand down, kind of like we saw in the first set with things like Intimidate. But if they're more consistent where you don't have to discard cards, maybe that's better. Maybe it uses some of those old keywords. We saw Dominate pop back up within the Mechanologist class. So who knows? We could see some really, really cool arrows. I really like the idea of them just creating a bunch of different arrow cards and you building a deck with a bunch of different arrows and you feeling sort of like Hawkeye, where you just pull out, okay, this is the arrow I need right now, whoop-ah, just throw it down. I think that's awesome. So let me know what you think about these cards in a comment below. Let's go back to this one. Let me know what you think about this weapon. Do you think this sets up for a really interesting class, a ranger class that maybe does a lot of arrow firing? What do you think about Aero Cards themselves? Do you think that they are going to be cheap? Do you think that they are going to be sort of lower on the damage scale so that you can play a lot of them and it not be so super incredibly broken? Let me know what you think in a comment below. Before we go, I want to give a huge thank you and shout out to Legend Story Studios for these 2 amazingly cool spoilers. I didn't even get to talk about the art yet because I was just so floored by everything else. The art on this is absolutely sweet. Look at that arrow. That's pretty awesome. So thank you, Legend Story Studios, for giving me the chance to talk about these cool cards. And as always, everybody, thanks for watching.